What's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 255 of The Ball is Round. It's a special St. Patty's Day edition episode when we've got a packed one for you tonight. First, we break down CF Montreal's third loss of the young MLS season, digging into what went wrong, what needs to change. Then we shift gears and get into the latest news surrounding FC Supra du Québec. Let's get right into it. And you already know I'm not stepping into this alone. Joining me in the mic, never one to sugarcoat it, always ready with the real talk, and guaranteed to bring the energy. Elias Grigoriadis, how are we doing, my man?
Energy. I don't bring energy. I'm tired.
You don't bring energy, but
I'm tired of
you
this,
do.
Grandpa.
You do bring a beer, as you guys can
I do bring
see.
a
This
beer.
is
Happy
cheers,
St. Patrick's
cheers,
Day, everybody.
and
Happy
anybody
St.
who's
Patrick's Day.
joining us tonight. I know
And
some
shout out
of
to the glorious people of Ireland.
exactly.
100%.
Cheers,
The
cheers.
best.
We'll be drinking a beer for every bad opinion we have, I guess, right? That's what we'll call it. But how you been,
I
man?
need you to call an ambulance then.
How's your day, dude? Because today has been
Today was an
in
interesting day.
today
Today
so
was a
much
fun
stuff
day.
happened.
Yeah, I was supposed to be at CF Montreal for training. Cfmtll has you guys filled out and all the details, obviously, and we're gonna get into it for a little bit. But I had a power failure in my apartment building this morning, so the garage door does not open, and I cannot leave. And I'm not walking to Marie Victorin, and I'm not taking public transit from the West Island to Marie Victorin because I don't have 3 hours to spare. So I'm not at CF Montreal training. That is just the reality of it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
besides that, the day was pretty chill, uneventful.
Eventful. Well, we have plenty of eventful stuff that
Exactly.
that happened in the sports world. But yeah, me too, man. Like I woke up and well, I live in an apartment building, and the power in the building went out for I swear 10 seconds. It went out for 10 seconds, just did a quick
Must be nice.
beep, and then went back on. And then and then just that little power off completely ruined the elevator. The elevator no longer was
Ah,
functional,
no.
and it just ruined everything. It was a complete clown show today in the building. But you know what? We're here. We're not gonna lose power, and we're drinking some beer just to relax because it's a Tuesday night.
Hell
And
yeah.
Elias, we've told people we're gonna do it Monday night. We've told people we're doing Sunday night. Now we're doing it Tuesday night, guys. Whenever it is that you tune in, whether it's live or even after the show, another day, we thank you so much for being with us.
We
We
just
try,
like keep you guys on your toes.
yeah, we keep ourselves on our toes. We
All
yesterday
of us.
Elias almost did the show by himself, and then I was like, "No, Elias, we're not doing that again." So we're back here, but we're gonna go ahead and start with the wonderful CF Montreal, who
Absolutely. Delightful. Spectacular. Sensational.
who we spoke about last week after they beat the New York Red Bulls 3-0. We were talking about how there were good vibes. It was the start of something maybe nice, and then all of a sudden you have another week and another game and another drama. But we, at least the way I saw it, is we were leading up to this game against Orlando, and there was a lot of stuff happening on Orlando's end. They had just fired their coach midweek. But fired is not it, right? They're calling it a what? A mutual
Mutual parting of ways. Yes. Yeah.
mutual parting of ways, and
Whatever that means.
so whatever it is, Orlando did not have their head coach on
Yeah.
Saturday, and they had an interim head coach, Oscar Pereja, who had been the coach, I believe, since 2019, was gone. Um, so yeah, and Robbie, thank you so much for joining us. We understand, guys, some of you are kind of in and out of the show. You got your hockey game tonight. Understandable. We'll be here. We'll be drinking our beer, but at least I hope Robbie or anybody listening hears the good parts, and then whenever they score on the Habs or the Habs score, you can just turn away. We'll be here talking. But yeah, leading up to the game on Saturday, I was a little bit, when we were talking on you were doing Outwatch during the week, we were kind of like, what's going to happen with Orlando? What do we expect of them? And even forgetting his name right now, but
Luis.
Luis was telling us like he told us a lot of bad things that happened under Oscar Pereira, but he doesn't. We don't have much to go by for Opwatch
No.
because what's going to be the next guy? And if that's us on Opwatch, you can only imagine what it's like in the CF Montreal offices where they're probably also confused and like, okay, well, let's kind of wait. what were your feelings leading up? And JFL Montreal, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Every time somebody says "What's up, Elias?" we cheers to them. Cheers, happy St. Patrick's
Cheers.
Day to you guys. Mm, water. And so, yeah, what were your feelings before the game?
Yeah, it's weird. It's tough to kind of predict what an opponent's going to do when the manager coming in has such a different philosophy, right? And we talked about this a little bit during our watch, where you're completely abandoning the formation, you're completely abandoning the tactics, the philosophy, everything, and you're going to see a much in theory you're going to see a much more offensive team. Now what's ironic is that the exact opposite ended up happening. But again, we'll get into the actual game itself in a bit. But from a prediction standpoint, and trying to prepare a game, it is tricky, right? I feel like a lot of teams were kind of feeling the same way when Marco Donadel took over,
Yeah,
because all of a sudden, we have a year and change of Laurent Courtois brand soccer. You know what to expect, or you know what he's going to come at you with. And then Marco the Dog goes, "Nope, I'm throwing everything in a blender." And so, yeah, it's tough to prepare. And I think that Donadel and his staff were in a very similar position. It's not easy, but I think that at the end of the day, it's your job. You got to figure it out somehow.
yeah. Well, that's it. And I think a lot. I mean, I think I was mostly looking at it. Yes, I knew that there was kind of crazy stuff going on the other side with
Mhm.
Orlando, but I just wanted Montreal to kind of ride that wave because it was a really good wave. It was actually a really good game. But we talked about it in this show last week, and I told you, Elias, I was like, I did say that I didn't think New York had their best game. I actually thought New York played very poorly, and it Montreal can only get away with so much
Yeah.
when a team is playing bad. Not every team will show up and play bad. Most of the time, they'll play their best against CF Montreal. So I think that victory was lucky, maybe, but I mean, CF Montreal also did things really well.
Mhm.
But I think the Orlando game, and we'll get, like you mentioned, we're going to get into the game deep. It was kind of a wake up call that, hey, that New York game doesn't count anymore. Whatever you thought you had there, you might want to go back to square one because there were a lot of simple mistakes that seem to have been
Right.
forgotten in that victory against New York, and we're back against Orlando. So let's look at the lineup. Let's go ahead and dive right into the game. At goalie, we had Thomas Gillier. We had Thomas Aviles as right back, Brian Vera and Efrain Morales as the center backs. We had Luca Petrasso back at the left back, um, Torhausen as a left winger, I want to say. And then we had Victor Loturi and Matty Longstaff as the midfield, and Wiki Carmona, I want to say as a 10. Henadi Sinchuk as a right winger, and Prince Owosu on as a 9. Now you look at this lineup, Elias, and tell me a little bit what's going through your mind when you're seeing this, because there's a big name missing in that lineup. Big name.
Yeah, the first reaction is what the fuck happened to Ivan Jaime? Is he hurt again? Oh my god, he's hurt again. I'm gonna lose my mind. Please, for the love of God, don't let Ivan Jaime be hurt again. And he wasn't hurt. It was a completely tactical decision, which is shocking. But yeah, when I saw Hennady Sinjuk and Wiki Kamara on the field at the same time, I realized that okay, so that means that Dango Torhausen is not playing right back anymore. He's going to be playing on the wing, which means that Thomas Aviles is playing right back. Actually, this time again, if you guys go back and watch the post game press conference from Marco Donadel, he explains why Thomas Aviles was actually the right back against Red Bulls, and it wasn't Dango Torhausen. And I don't believe a word of it because Dango Torhausen
Nope.
basically played right back that game. This time, in no uncertain terms, Thomas Aviles was the right back, and um,
We'll get into it. Just look at the lineup for
I don't
now. Just
understand it for a
yeah.
millisecond, but yes, that is in fact. So that was my reaction. I was like, oh my god, he's doing the damn thing. He's gonna do the damn thing, and he's gonna throw everybody forward, and it's gonna be very tricky. And it was, and it was.
Yeah, it was not very tricky. It was just very bad. And what I'm gonna say is, yes, I saw Thomas Aviles again, and he said it last week. He said he is playing a four back, and Thomas Aviles is a right back. Those were Marco Donadel's exact words.
Yeah.
So when I see that again, I'm like, not again. I understand we want to do the same thing that worked last week because it actually worked. But when you want to do the same thing, you do the same exact thing, not partially the same thing,
Yep.
such as excluding Ivan Jaime. To me, I see that and I'm thinking it's a contractual thing. There's no way
That's what everybody thought.
you can't make it sense to me that I'm not even speaking proper English at this point, but make it make sense that Ivan Jaime is not on the field as good as he was. Even and we'll get into a game. Just seeing those, he came in the 57th minute. Just seeing those, what is it, 30 minutes that he played, it doesn't make any sense if it's a tactical decision, unless, Elias, I'll give Marco this because it did work last week. You get a player like Wiki Carmona with a chip on his shoulder that wants to do something against his former team, and you're betting that the same thing is going to happen with the Gord Torholson, that he's going to come with a chip in his shoulder and want to prove to Orlando. That would be different. That is a big bet, but I don't think these two players, as they might have the same motive, but they don't have that same kind of personality to really become
Yeah.
another player when it comes to beating your former employer. So that we'll get right into the game. Okay, so what was let's just talk about it. What were your thoughts on the game overall?
Massive missed opportunity. It was they had the game there, and they were simply not effective enough. This is the same story we've been seeing all season, all of last year, where they didn't play terribly. They just didn't do a whole lot of anything, and it relied most of the chances, most of the breakthroughs, most of anything really was reliant on individual brilliance, and not no collective progress, no designed patterns of play that I've recognized before. Oh my god! And this team knows how to break down a low block. No, the team sees a low block, the team has a nervous breakdown, and the team does not score. Repeat, copy and paste, and that's really just like my overall take of the game, because it's a mess. It's a mess going forward. And look, you look at the 3 goals they scored against Red Bulls, and 2 of them were effectively gifted. All right, it's a terrible tackle that leads to a penalty, and I don't know what the hell happened in the 3rd goal. The 2nd goal from the set piece, fair play, is a well worth goal, but you see a team win 3-0. Oh my God, the offense is clicking. It's like, no, it was just, more pragmatic than we're used to. This is a much better indication of where CF Montreal's attack is. Prince Wusu gets a great header. His hold up play was better, but it still shows that him and Ivan Jaime don't necessarily speak the same language. It's him and Henadi Singchuk don't necessarily speak the same language. He's not getting enough crosses, and it looks all very new, despite the fact that a lot of these guys have played together for a year or for several months. So this is a bit of a nuisance. It's not like a 5 alarm fire. Oh my god, but it's more now just like, okay, we're no longer in the ironing the kinks out stage. We're in the progression phase, and I don't see it.
Yeah, if I can give my overall thought of the game, I would say I think we said this against San Diego after the red card, but it was 2 games. It was the first game before Ivan Jaime and the second game after Ivan Jaime, where he
Mhm.
completely changed the momentum of the game. He brought lot more. I mean, he destabilized Orlando in his own way. His skill set, his vision, he opened up the game. I'm not
Yeah.
saying he would have scored 3 goals. I think he also made a lot of mistakes, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But um, it I feel like before Ivan Jaime came in, Elias, it was a one-dimensional game. It was the same thing over and over again. Where did they go? Which direction? Left or right? Right. What did they do when they get to right? Kick it far to Prince Owusu. Hope he gets it. Prince Owusu struggled against San Diego, and he also struggled against Chicago. We talked about in this show against the defenders. I felt that he struggled yet again. I can't fully put this on Prince Owusu though, because the other attackers, I honestly, Elias, I forgot the Gortar Hulson actually played the game because he did nothing. Every once in a while, I would see him in the defensive mid position trying to get the ball. And I was like, what is he doing there? He should be as a left winger if that's what the lineup calls. So it felt like a very one-dimensional game, and a game that at the end of the game, Elias, I had more questions than answers. Seriously, I was very confused as to what I had just witnessed because it was a very stale attack that created that didn't leave anything to the imagination, especially. And I'm not, look, I said it, New York had a terrible game last week against Montreal. Orlando is not, I don't think they are better than Montreal, but Montreal just didn't seem to capture opportunities. They didn't seem to capitalize on anything they had. They kept shooting themselves in the foot, which seems to be the theme of the season's 4 games into it. I don't know
I
if you
mean,
agree
yeah,
with, go
like
ahead.
it's. I feel like when Henai Central came off the field and Jaime came on, it was still one dimensional. It's just on the other side of the field.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind that. There's a majority of the attack that goes to one side or the other. My bigger problem is that the middle of the park right now is so weak that the whole point of focusing all your attack onto one side is to create space not on the other side of the field, because by the time you switch play, everyone shifted over, right? This isn't U10 soccer where it takes teams 5 minutes to switch over. The second you switch play, everyone's there and they keep their shape. It's to create space in the middle. And when Wiki Carmona doesn't have as good of a game as he did against Red Bulls, and I don't think he played terribly, I just don't think that he was excellent. When Prince Owusu's not getting on the ball because he can't combine with Wiki Carmona, and
Mhm.
then you have Victor Laturi and Matty Longstaff having the game that they're having. Hennady Sintra could be Messi. He could be Ian Rob. It doesn't matter how good of a game he has. Who again? He arguably had his best game in a CF Montreal jersey on Sunday or on Saturday.
Saturday.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the space that he's creating is not being exploited because the rest of the team is either not on the ball or they don't have the technical quality. And I don't want to just like wait with bated breath for Ivan Losenko to come in because a 21-year-old kid is going to be the answer to all your prayers magically. But I see who else is on the bench, and I'm not filled with optimism. Right, you're going to have Ojer Escobar playing as an eight. You're going to have Wiki Carmona playing as an eight. That's not their positions. And then when they don't have the ball, they're going to be lost because it's not their positions. And then you're going to go, they're not natural eights. Bench them. Well, I mean, what are we doing here? There has to be a certain trade-off. So I mean, yeah, my problem is not that it's one dimensional. My problem is that it's so unsuccessful. It's so inefficient when they finally are successful. Because how many times do you think they actually generate a shot, despite how many times Jaime or Sinchuk dribble past their fullback? Because the Orlando fullbacks were mincemeat by the end of the game. Jaime and
Yeah.
Sinchuk completed like a dozen dribbles. They were excellent. But there's no finished product because the middle of the park is useless.
Yeah, and that's something that we saw. Well, the practice that when I went to practice at Marivic in the week when last time they were in Montreal for practice, this is something that they had put a lot of emphasis in that practice, which was around the box, tight spaces, make sure you pass the ball and shoot at the goal. But it just doesn't seem to click. It doesn't translate into the game, and that's a problem because, as you mentioned, moments when they need to score, no matter how beautiful the dribbles are, how Sinchuk looks like he's taken another step in being feeling confident with the ball, being up to being confident dribbling the ball down the flank in the MLS and its physical aspect of the game. He also, in my opinion, played really decent high press. I think he's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
He still has moments where he's kind of lazy with it, but as you mentioned, the midfield is a problem right now for CF Montreal. I mean, that's why I think maybe Donadel feels forced at this point to kind of go one dimensional only on the flanks with either Jaime or Sinchuk and can't really rely on the midfield. And you mentioned you look at the bench and you have a big name. You have I say a big name because he has so much history with the club. You have a midfielder in Samuel Piet,
Yeah,
but there's also the question: he's not getting any younger, Lies. He's getting he he's hitting that age that any athlete hits where maybe they've lost a step. And this scheme, Donadel's scheme, requires the top level athleticism to be able to chase your man. Something Aviles wasn't able to do. He was number 77. Ivan Angulo was running
because he's not a
circles.
fullback. Oh my, you can't be surprised when you play a center back who's not even super quick to begin with at fullback, and then he gets ripped when there's this
Ripped.
much space. So again, like it's, I got flashbacks to seeing Joel Waterman or Jalen Neal or Brandon Craig last year at right back. Last year, at least that Bugai's fitness was questionable. Alexander Kuboglu maybe wasn't ready. You didn't have Bodhi Hidalgo. You didn't have Dango Torhasan. So like, I get it. You have 4 right backs on this team. Why are center backs playing right back? Because again, last year you had someone like Joel Waterman. You wanted him inverted because when you build up from the back, he steps into the midfield and he's great on the half turn and he's comfortable on the ball and he gets it. And even Hennady Sinchuk is already there on the right, so it's sorted. That's fine. Thomas Aviles is not Joel Waterman. Thomas Aviles is not Jalen Neal. He can't just play in that pocket. And so, the trade-off they had, because Joel Waterman was also all the center backs that shifted into right back last year were also struggling defensively. You had the trade-off that at least they were good on the ball and they could combine and then they could, progress the ball forward. You don't even get that with Thomas Aviles. He's kind of just there, right? Because he's out of position. He's at sea. So it's a complete mess. And I hope, and again, this is in theory the first time we've seen Thomas Aviles as the right back. Because I still think Dango Torhasan was the right back in New Jersey. Doesn't matter though.
Yeah, there are so
I
many.
hope it's the last. I hope it's the last because this is shown to not work. At least not with Thomas Aviles. If you want to try again with Jaden Neal because he's much better on the ball, fine. If you want to try again with Brendan Craig, if you're rotating the squad, fine. Go ahead. Thomas Aviles, no, not happening.
I mean, look, I think we're starting to learn a lot about Marco Donadel and his way of thinking, and he seems to be the kind of coach that will go down fighting with his ideas in the sun. And again, even the best coaches in the world are like that. They stick to the principles, they stick to their ideas. But I think in this day and age, Eli, especially in the MLS, not because we're not playing in Europe, we're playing in the MLS.
Mhm.
It's just it doesn't work. It just doesn't work for the style of football that they play here. And
Yeah.
it's something that I think Marco Donadel is going to have to change quickly, or somebody in his staff is going to have to say, "Hey, Marco, it's not working," because it's not. So, and it's not about a Thomas Aviles thing. You could put, like you mentioned, Brandon Craig or Joel Waterman there. It's going to be the same thing. They're not playing in their natural position. So, what are you expecting out of that? Are you expecting a better result? What's the definition of insanity, Elias? Is doing the
The
same
same
thing
thing.
over and over again with the same results. And that's what we're seeing with Marco Dandel. So we're going to see how the next few weeks go. We're going to hope that he makes it back to Montreal as the head coach of CF Montreal. But we'll see. Let's get into the game. We always give a little bit of superlatives. So who was your top performer of the night?
Sinchuk. Sinchuk was excellent. From minute 1, he was on top of his shit. He was taking people on. He looked every bit of the part as a player meant to take Dante Sealy's spot. Where he was a bit more conservative last year and he was still kind of feeling everything out. Last night, or not last night, on Saturday, he was running at people. He was taking them on. He wasn't just settling for a half a look. He tried actively looking for better options. Uh, and I think that's the mark of someone with massive confidence, obviously. So I hope that he keeps, going forward with this. I think it's also very helpful that he did get a game off. Right, he didn't really. We were talking about this, after the first 2 games and how poorly they went. Maybe an 18-year-old kid, surprise, or a 19-year-old kid, however old he is, A teenager, surprise, surprise, needs a mental reset once in a while, needs a break, needs to maybe watch the game with a step back. And all of a sudden he comes back and he's excellent. So I hope he keeps this momentum going into next week. But 100% he was the best player on the pitch for Montreal by a mile.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would agree with you just because that's the biggest sample size we had because there was nothing
Yeah.
going to the left. If not, my other superlative will be to Ivan Jaime. And not because he did anything spectacular, but just because how efficient he was with his play with the few minutes he got and how he changed the game around. That's literally what you want out of a top player. A player that changes the game. And I'm not talking about a player that gets a red card and changes the game. I'm talking about a player that makes the important passes, that changes the vision, changes the tempo, and unsettles the opponent. And that's what we saw with Ivan Jaime. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that he's the best player in the team because I do think there's Luca Petrasso and all that they are engines of this team and that they keep it going. But um, I do think that Ivan Jaime will need to be, will need to step up his game. There's clearly something going on, Elias, if they chose him, if they tactically decided to take him out. But I do think that he might have been the top performer alongside Hernandez Inter just based on his efficiency of what he did.
Yeah,
Who
that's fair.
didn't? Who was the worst player? I'm gonna start. Thomas
Go for
Aviles,
it.
100%, a hundred
Yeah,
percent. He
100%.
was, and again, so hard to know who to put the blame on. But the few showings that Aviles has had for this team have not gone well.
No.
He got the red card in the first game of the season, which really screwed over the team. He was terrible as a right back against Orlando,
Mhm.
and he hasn't done anything to convince me that he should start over, say, a Brandon Craig. I'm not saying Brandon Craig will be a better right back, but he knows the system, and clearly, I think he would be a little bit more settled in that position.
Honestly,
But
Brandon Craig is getting obliterated in that any center back against that flank that Orlando has is getting obliterated. That space, maybe Brian Vera, who's probably the quickest of the center backs, I think, and who played fullback is the only one. But again, you're going to put a left-sided center back at right back. What are we doing? But
yeah,
no, I think anyone gets murdered. Honestly, respectfully.
yeah, but Thomas Aviles also was a no show. I know I said only one, but I do want to put the Gortar Holson because I thought even though the ball didn't go to his side, the few chances he had, he did
Mhm.
nothing with the ball. He played for what 57 minutes, and
Something like that.
he did nothing to really threaten. Though actually, if if you guys want, Orlando actually completely abandoned the left side. Completely abandoned. They said, okay, well, Montreal's going to the right. We're sticking to the right. The amount of times during the game that you see Petrasso just waving his hand on the left, like, hey, guys, guys, guys,
Yeah.
guys, and nobody passed him the ball. Again,
Mhm.
maybe his fault, maybe not. Were there any surprises? Any surprising performers?
I mean, yeah, Victor Lotori
Well, yeah,
was horrible.
in a good way.
No, I didn't say who my worst player was. It's Victor
Oh, sorry,
Lotori.
sorry, 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 sorry.
It's
Go ahead.
Victor Lotori was
Yeah.
look when you look at the gap between how Victor Lotori ended the season, which was, and we talked about this in the offseason, an undisputed starter and the best midfielder at the club, to what I'm seeing now, it's shocking. He was better last year at the beginning of the season when he was still figuring out the league than he is now after a year of experience and 40 games. So it's genuinely uh I don't understand it anymore because I still think that he's got everything he needs to succeed in MLS, to succeed at this club, but from just technically, it's rough. It's not good right now, and he's giving the ball away for free. He's not switching play as much as often as I think he had one really nice switch of play where he found Ivan Jaime
Yes,
and
yes.
he played Ivan Jaime through, and Ivan Jaime was one on one, and it was excellent. I think the reason it stands out to me so much is because it only happened once,
Yeah. Fair.
and then
Yeah.
because that's I remember watching. We were actually at dinner for my mom's birthday, and we were at the restaurant,
Happy
and I
birthday,
go,
mom.
"Holy shit, happy birthday, mama!" And we go, "Holy shit, that was a great ball." I've not seen that ball all night. I've barely seen that ball all season, And so Victor Laturi, again, my Longstaff wasn't fantastic. I do think he had a better game. Um, I think also just by playing next to Laturi was looked a bit better. He was winning the ball higher up the pitch. He was combining with Owusu and Carmona. But Laturi, as much as I love Victor Laturi, this was not a good game at all. It was a nightmare. And again, Samuel Piet is right there. And we've talked about it ad nauseum at this point. Samuel Piet had a very strong 45 minutes against San Diego. And then we never saw him again, at least not meaningfully. And I'm at a loss as to what Samuel Piet could have done to warrant being treated like this. Because I get it, Marco Donadel talked about how he wanted more intensity against Red Bulls instead of having Piet, who is more of a controlling force, and I get that, but you against a team like this where you're gonna have more of the ball, where you need more order than intensity against a team like San Diego, you need some composure on the field. Why is Samuel Piet on the bench? It's unthinkable, and I again, he's probably one of the most important players at the club, not just on the field but off it. And again, it makes absolutely no footballing sense. It makes no tactical sense for me that he's not there. And I think that based purely on the football we've seen him play this year, especially given how slow he usually starts a season, the fact that he's managed to hit the ground running and he's being punished for that, I don't understand. It makes no sense.
I completely agree with you. There's two things that I have to say about that to add on, Elias. And Robbie agrees with you. Laturi is looking poor so far. Um, Samuel Piet played, came in at the 57th minute, just like Ivan Jaime at the same time.
Mhm.
And he was never given the captain's armband. He has always been the captain for this club as long as he's been here. Well, I don't know when he might have not have been captain at the beginning, but the point is,
When Bernier retired, he took over.
in most recent memory, he's always been the captain. Elias,
Yeah.
who is the player that they always ask to do post game press conferences after horrendous losses?
Yeah, it's him.
It's him.
He's the good
Who
soldier.
did the post game press conference on Saturday?
Samuel Piet.
Samuel Piet. Why? He didn't have the captain's armband. He didn't play the whole game. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah.
That to me doesn't make sense. And you said it yourself. We're talking about a footballing perspective and non-footballing perspective. I
Mhm.
said it on this show. Victor Lattori had a horrendous game against New York, but New York as a team had a horrible game
Yeah.
overall. So Lattori actually didn't look too bad because everything around him was going bad. So, but when a team like Orlando, who is a little bit more competitive, played against when Orlando, sorry, who's a little more competitive, obviously Lattori is challenged more, so he shows that poor display that he did. And so to me, there's serious questions to be asked about the midfield. Is there an incoming transfer? I know you mentioned Ivan Dosenko. How desperate are we, because this team I know right now is getting very patient, with new new signings coming from Europe and all that. They want them to adapt. We talk about Noah Stride and all that, but right now there needs to be a spark in the midfield, because if we continue going the same way with Lattori and Longstaff, then we're going to have a very long season, Elias, at least until summer when the next
Mhm.
transfer window opens. But was there any surprise performers? Maybe anybody that flew under the radar for you in this game?
Nope.
Okay.
Everyone else was either underwhelming or okay.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
the
look,
best thing I could say, honestly.
I'll say this: the person that surprised me, that to me had two decent games, was Wiki Carmona. I really like his
I'm not
game.
surprised by that though.
I am. I did not think that he would be this impactful. Again, I based myself off of the reaction of the New York fans when he was let go from the New York Red Bulls. Everybody seemed to be relieved. Even on Opwatch, when we talked in with the New York Red Bulls media, they told us that
Mhm.
he was good, but he had his gas. I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar, but he has the tools, Elias. He has the um, he has the tools to be, impactful player. He's a big body. He can body out players. He can kick the ball.
Yeah.
He's obviously finishing. He has the speed. I felt like he had one of the things that he did that surprised me was his return speed on defense. He would sneak up on a lot of midfielders and surprise them with defense, which was really, again, really something that to me stood out. Um, but let's dive into some of the storylines, Elias, because we're the game. We're gonna analyze it over and over again. It's the same thing. It's kind of a Elias. I think we can say it's kind of a boring game. I'll say that.
It was an extremely boring game, and it's mostly because um, I genuinely think that the club still doesn't know how to break down a low block because they still don't know who their midfielders are, and and once they realize that Victor Laturi and Matty Longstaff are not the players that will unlock a low block for you, then they can start taking it seriously. Ivan Losenko is still an unknown quantity, and again, we've seen Mark Streit come off the bench. Mark Streit, Noah Streit come off the
Uy,
bench a number of times. I don't think that Ivan Losenko, just based on watching him train, I don't think physically he's far behind enough to justify him not having a single minute yet. Fuck it. Just throw him on the field for the last 10 minutes just to see what would happen. Right? Like, I don't understand. If you're trying to ease him in, if you didn't want him to play the first month, I get it. But we're in situations now where it does absolutely no harm to give him a hand. I'm not saying play him for a whole half, play him for even half an hour. I'm saying give him 5-10 minutes, just so we can get a feel for it, just so he can show what he can do, and just so we can get a better idea. And the coaches can also get a better idea of what he can provide. Because there's only so much data you can collect from training before it starts to become useless. You have now what, like 2 months worth of data on Ivan Losenko in training? You don't need any more. So I really do hope that they address that seriously, because this team is very close to being competitive. They really are one or two good, solid, dependable pieces away from being a competitive team and a playoff team. Um, it's just, do they have that in house, or do they have to go and get it? Is the question.
Elias, I don't think they're one or two pieces away. I think they're a coach away from being a good team.
Oh, we're not going
Yeah,
to get into here's the
I.
thing, man. Like the foundation of the tactics makes sense when you. What I don't understand is why he's not putting the right people in the right spots.
But that's it.
But the thing is, we're talking tactically. Tactically, it's there. You know, it's now just squad selection, which again is a very important part of a manager's job. But I think in terms of having the right coach there, I don't think I'm ready to say he's a wrong coach. I do think he has a lot more to prove, but he's earned the benefit of the doubt just because he's got the players to play for him. So until he loses the dressing room, I think that he has, he's earned the right to kind of at least still work at it, honestly.
I don't know. Call me dramatic. It feels like
Yeah,
he's.
you're dramatic, dude. No
I'll drink
shit.
beer.
You were, yeah, have a drink. Sell that.
For those of you watching the Montreal Canadiens game, and they're tied 1-1 with the Boston Bruins, but this is not a hockey podcast. But we understand that the hockey game is going on as well. But let's talk a little bit about some of the storylines that are happening around the team. This is outside of the field, right, Elias? And we usually talk about the
Yeah.
game. We like to analyze, but it's Elias. It's the month of March, and there's already storylines being built with this team. And I almost want to be surprised. I almost want to say like shocking, but it's not. It's always the same thing. I believe this time last year, Laurent Courtois was still coach of
He
CF
was
Montreal.
coach. He will still be coach for a week
Okay,
and a half.
fine.
March 29th was Donadel's first game. I think the 26th, 25th or 26th is when he got fired. So he still got a week before it's
Okay.
the anniversary.
So we weren't that bad yet. The stories were just about to start. But take it 2 years back, there was the Mathieu Chouanière situation. There were so many situations this time of the year. But let's talk about the top one. Sunusi Ibrahim. He was not in practice today. He has, I've shared pictures on social media of him at practice, completely checked out.
Mhm.
Quickly, tell me,
Yeah.
is he out?
Max
Is he in?
Max Truman was talking about he has a back injury. He won't train this week. Um, to be completely candid with you,
Please.
I'm gonna put about as much effort into covering Sunusi Ibrahim as he puts effort into training.
Fair.
I
Fair.
don't want to talk about Sunusi Ibrahim. I don't want to cover Sunusi Ibrahim, and I think that a player that has not touched the soccer ball in training, at least that we've seen in forever, is not really part of the club. He's a part of the club in name only. Is Robbie calling me dramatic? Are you calling me dramatic, Robbie? How dare you?
Have a drink,
How
Elias. Have a
how
drink. Every time we're called dramatic. But Robbie actually brings up, before I move on from Sunuz Ibrahim, Robbie actually brought up a good point. He says,
that I'm
Piet's
dramatic?
days, as
What?
before, you only read the important stuff. Piet's days as the leader are done now. Do you agree with that? Is it Prince Owusu's turn?
Yes and no. I think as an on-field leader, just from sheer minutes, I think you're right. And I think honestly, the lack of Quebecois players on this team right now plays into that. The fact that at least externally, it feels like his kind of authority and his leadership is fading a little bit is because again, we don't know how the dressing room looks like. We get a 4-minute video every week. That's not enough, right?
Yeah.
But given that if there's not as many Quebecois players on the team, that he is still a deified figure for. Because remember, right, Samuel Piet is one of the greatest Quebecois players ever, right? Any way you cut it. He's one of the greatest Montreal Impact CF Montreal players ever. And the like again, you can not like his game play style, you can not like the way he's played the last few years. It doesn't matter. His standing amongst Quebecois soccer is undisputed. He's on the same level as Patrice Bernier and Mauro Biello and all these people, right? He's just more modern. So I think that when you have more Quebecois players on the team, it's going to resonate more because he is this all-encompassing deified figure. He's not even that big of as much as it's not as it doesn't resonate as much necessarily on the national team level as it does as a purely from a culturally Quebecois, you know, aspect. So, you know, maybe that has something to do with it. But you see the videos of Prince Owusu, leading the not leading the team talk, but giving the team talk in the locker room when everyone's huddled up. You see the videos of him, he's being built up as this team's leader. He's gotten the majority of the minutes he's gotten all the minutes with the armband so far, except for a couple, right? When he got subbed off against San Diego. So I think that you know is it done? No, but I feel like we're in a transition period.
Yeah, it does feel like maybe Samuel Piet, without wanting to, I don't think we're doing anything wrong. Just as you mentioned, just naturally it happening has kind of gone down the hierarchy. I mean, that doesn't take away anything from the history with this club, with everything he's done. But as
Mhm.
you mentioned, CF Montreal is going through a rebuild right now. They want new ideas, new words, new messages being brought in, not the same old.
Yeah.
So who's the new guy? Who's the new person that's bringing in the new message that's going to repeat what Marco Donadel says on the locker room? It's going to be Prince Owusu because Elias, he hasn't known 2022. He hasn't known 2023. He hasn't known 2024. He just knows last year. And that's his impression of of Montreal is Laurent Courtois being fired and Marco Donadel taking over and him having a fantastic season once Marco Donadel came in. So I think it's a natural thing, but it's still it begs the question as to what like how much could you upset? And at the same time, I just want to know: does it ever go into into Piet's brain? Hey, what am I doing here? Maybe I should go somewhere else. and
I don't
try
think
to
so.
actually win something. Maybe I should go to a more ambitious club that is closer to winning a championship. Mind you, Elias, a lot of players have done that within MLS. They've gone to other clubs aiming that it was going to be, more ambitious, and they spend more money. Jules Anthony Vincent, for an example, or Raheem Edwards, whatever you want, and it didn't work out that way, and that's not what one would hope.
Yeah,
But we're gonna move on. I just wanted to kind of point that out, and thank you, Robbie, for bringing
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
up because it is a really, really good question. But Jalen Neal, who I tweeted out his mom's
Uh,
Instagram story, where she said, "Oh man, I wish you could show it on the screen," where she said that, "Oh, wonder why that
she was
happened."
displeased at her son's lack of playtime given the defensive
Parents.
performance put up so far this season. Is a diplomatic way to put it. I mean,
Look, I mean, are you concerned for Jalen Neal? Do you think it's
no, no, I'm not because if if you're talking about his minutes, yes. If I'm talking about his family posting on social media,
no, no,
family
no,
gets
forget
annoyed all
that.
the
No,
time,
no,
right? But
football talk. Yeah,
yeah,
like the fact that he's not
if
getting any minutes,
if he
he's
doesn't play next week against Cincinnati after the performance, after the hot dookie that we saw over the last couple games from all three of the central defenders being used for the most part, right? All three of them dropped stinkers at least once so far this
hmm
season.
hmm
Then I'm gonna start being concerned because we talk about, especially with the center back position, which is so anchored on consistency. If neither of these three, Vera, Morales, and Aviles, have made the argument that they are undisputed starters, I think if any one of the three have, it's Morales. I think he's been the most constant out of all of them. But none of the three have made the argument that they should be undisputed starters on this team. In fact, I go so far as to say a lot of them have almost played themselves out of an assured spot in the starting 11. So Jalen Neal, I think, has earned a chance to at least show what he can do. I think Wiki Carmona was in the same spot. Wiki Carmona was lower on the depth chart, and then Hennady Sinchuk needed a breather. And he brought what he brought and what only he can bring in the attacking core. Because you look at the other wingers, you look at, or the other attackers that are not named Prince Owusu, you look at people like Hennady Sinchuk, Ivan Jaime, O'Hare Escobar. Those people cannot do what Wiki Carmona does. So he highlighted that and then he made himself valuable. Jalen Neal, it's your turn now. This is assuming he gets actual minutes against Cincinnati. If he doesn't play against Cincinnati on top of that, then 100% I'm concerned because now you've been fit for a month. What's going on here?
Elias, what did I tell
Do
you?
not shopping him.
He
Drink a
doesn't
beer.
want. You guys see that, huh? I'll drink a beer, and I'll drink a beer when they shop him out. But he doesn't want me to say it. But I'm not concerned. They're shopping him around. I said it, and I'll say it again. And then you know what's gonna happen? In a few weeks, we're gonna have a segment in this show. What it's gonna be called? Andy was right. All right, so let's move on to the next one.
I'm
Mahalo
gonna rename
Poku.
the segment now and call them the CF Montreal are morons that mishandled it. But we'll
Oh,
cross that bridge when we get there.
ooh, that's another podcast. But let's go ahead and talk about it. So Mahalo Poku, not much to say about him. I think he's out, dude. I think he's not gonna play
I will
another
talk
minute
about
for CF
Mahalo
Montreal.
Poku because unlike Snusi Ibrahim, he's actually putting in an effort. I genuinely feel bad for Mahalo Poku because again, if anybody's been watching this show for the last couple of years. When he first got here, I was on the moon. I was ecstatic. He was one of my most highly rated under 21 players in MLS. With LAFC, he was putting up fantastic performances and he was integral into that MLS Cup run. He was exceptional. And it's so sad to see, where how far it's fallen because you see him in training and you're like, why is this guy not starting? He's fantastic. He's running, he's moving, he's connecting, he's finishing, he's doing everything you'd expect Mahalo Poku to do. And then whenever he gets minutes in the game, it's just not there. It's just not there. And it's unfortunate because that's just the reality of football sometimes. Sometimes it don't work. And you have to just, kind of, begrudgingly admit it, go your separate ways, and wish each other the best because I harbor no ill will for Mahalo Poku, and I wish him the best.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna play another minute. I think he's being a professional, which is all that in his situation you can ask him to be, is to be professional. But but yeah, I mean, I don't think he's gonna play another minute. Not because he's not talented, not because he can't play at this level, but it's just
Yeah.
he is such a one-dimensional player, such as similar to what I say about Oger Escobar.
Yep.
Right now, Oger Escobar is a very one-dimensional player, very good at the attack. The rest of his game is terrible.
Hmm.
But I'll say the same thing about Mahalo Poku. The few minutes we got to see him these past few seasons, he can have some exciting moments on the attack, but defense-wise, ugh. And so far, all the coaches, the past three coaches that he's played under, Hernan Losada, Laurent Courtois, and more importantly, I was going to say Laurent Simon, Marco Donadel, Marco Donadel, they've always demanded heavy defense from their attackers. And Mahalo Poku simply is not that profile. And what worries me the most about this, because they did spend money on Mahalo Poku,
It's
is
been good money.
what the hell? Where the hell was the scouting? Because I
The
think it's
scouting was
pretty
there, but that's the
evident.
thing, though, because the scouting was there. By MLS standards, he was one of the most promising young players in the league. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I'm not. This is one I'm not really going to blame the scouting on, because by every metric, he was a fantastic player and a fantastic prospect.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just doesn't
So
work. That's football.
we're gonna keep it short because again, Mahalo Poku hasn't played that much to really have anything to say much. But as you mentioned, in practice, at least he's doing his thing. But that's just being a pro. You're expected to do. If that's the standard I'm putting for Mahalo Poku, he's participating and trying in practice. And I'm sorry, we're really, really far off because I
Mhm.
need to put a standard where Mahalo Poku is actually getting minutes and at least hitting the post of the goal, not doing really good at practice. All right, let's move on to Ivan Jaime. Are you worried about this in any way? Are you? Do you think? Do you believe the words that are
Yeah,
being said in the press conference about this?
yeah. So I mean, like Robbie asked us earlier in the show if it really was just tactical. It was just tactical. The contract thing, I don't really think is that big of a deal, honestly. I really think that the problem now is physically, he cannot give you 90 minutes, and you're not going to sub somebody on at the 30-minute mark. He could probably give you 60. Marco Donadel would rather have him for the last 30 than would have him for the first 60. That was a cost benefit analysis done by the coaching staff, I'm guessing. Did they get it wrong? I think so, but it was a tactical decision, and that's where we talk about man management and squad selection, right? I think that I would have rather see half an hour of Ivan Jaime, and he's out for the second for the end of the game, and then you bring on Noah Streit or something, rather than you know just having him for half an hour because he was on it. He was on his shit on Saturday. He was taking people on one. He was driving all of the offense. He was creating all of the scoring opportunities. Now, once you have to get him to combine with Prince Owusu more, and they have to get on the same wavelength, which will happen. I think they're both talented and also intelligent enough that it'll end up working fine. But the connections have to start forming at some point, and that can't happen when one of them only plays for half an hour. That just can't.
Yeah.
So I hope that he better start against Cincinnati. There's no reason because you've played that hand and you lost by gambling on just keeping him for the end of the game, and it didn't work. Now give him the chance to kind of work at the defense for the entirety of the first half and then also a bit in the second half. Because if he's not physically ready to play 90 minutes, or if he's incapable of playing 90 minutes at the intensity that you want, fine. But he needs to put in more time than just half an hour because that's not what a designated player does. That's just not.
Yeah, and honestly, I think what we're seeing from Ivan Jaime right now, as the games go on, is a player that is desperate, desperate to make an impact. And Elias, that can either be very, very good or very, very bad because you can get a player that makes terrible decisions when it comes to desperate shots, desperate passes, or you can get a very impactful player because some players react differently to being, pushed against the wall or cornered, better said, to get out
Yeah.
of that position. But I think what we're seeing from Miguel and Jaime is a player that is desperate to make an impact and to showcase that he deserves more minutes than what he got against Orlando. I mean, today
Yeah.
in
No, you're right.
retrospect, it's obviously a mistake because he did such a big difference in 30 minutes. But can he do that for 90? Can he do that for 60? It's against New York. I thought he did great, but he still had some very head scratching moments where he did that desperate shot or that desperate pass. And
But in fact, I don't mind that. I want him to be more selfish. You are the best player on the team by a country mile. Play like it. You want to take people on? Take people on. You want to take a shot from outside the box? Take the shot from outside the box. You want to try something that's super low percentage? Go for it because you are the best player on the team. And within reason, obviously, I don't want you to just be shooting from 30 yards out every time we touch the ball. But within reason, if you're going to back yourself. You're the best player on the team, and it's not close. I wouldn't hate if you started acting like it. Because, again, with all due respect, offensively, can't get any worse.
yeah. Now let's go ahead and hit the last topic of CF Montreal. Marco Donadel.
Yeah.
Where do we stand with
Yeah.
him right now? 4 games in.
I stand with I loved his pragmatic side. I think the game against Red Bulls was arguably his best coach game
Mm-hmm.
since he got here in a year. And games like that are what prove to me that he is not just a manager that has one idea, but he can find success in multiple. But the thing is, he has to stop getting in his own way. He has to stop making his life more difficult than it has to be. I don't think anybody would be up in arms if he organized and prepared his team a bit more pragmatically, like what we saw against Red Bulls. At least until we get a better idea and his players get a better idea of what is exactly being asked of him. But the more he kind of keeps on, because it's not stubbornness, but the more he keeps on trying to stay committed to this idea, the more people are going to get
You literally
discouraged.
define stubbornness.
No, because it's because I do think that stubbornness would have been him trying to just outpress Red Bulls, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not stubbornness. It's more just I think it's almost like a false hope where he's like, okay, we did well. I want to try this again. So it's less of a stubbornness and more just like a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Him and his system.
Yeah,
He's like,
well said. Yes,
it went really well. Let me try the other one for a second. No, relax.
No, I mean you said it really well. The toxic relationship in the sense of let me see just how much I can push this player's buttons until they get, I get the best out of them.
I don't, but I don't think it's a toxic relationship with him and the players. I don't. I think it's a toxic
No. But
relationship
overall,
between
his
him
ideas.
and his tactics. It's a very one-on-one
I'm not
kind
mad.
of thing. It's not an external thing. There's no other people in this relationship but him and his tactics, and maybe his coaching staff. Maybe they're involved too. But I really think that this is so that he has to almost like it's like a journey he has to take himself, into the center of his own footballing ideology and his philosophy. And I hope he comes out of it soon because, again, I for one think that these tactics have legs. I've been talking about this since we had this meeting with Donadel, since he met with members of the media to kind of go into the finer points. The tactics themselves have legs. It's a viable system. The squad is not there yet, and I don't think he has gotten to implement it into the brains of his team. But
But if you
it's
didn't
there.
do that during the off season, then what did you do? That's what the off season is for. No?
But maybe the system is not enough to, or is not easy enough to just teach over one summer. one
Well,
winter.
maybe the system is not fit for MLS or players of this age. When you're the second youngest team, no, you're the youngest team in MLS. Maybe it's too complex of a system. Maybe players like even Samuel Piet are having a hard time adapting to that system. Like it just to me, this is where I stand with Marco Donadel. He's at his best when he adjusts and he surprises people with the adjustments he makes, because the adjustments he makes are actually really really good. We saw it several times last year, and we saw it against New York. We said it in the show. I said it myself. I said, if I can give the superlatives to somebody in this game, it will be Marco Donadel, because of the way he handled the game and he adapted it so that he completely dominated New York. He didn't change anything. He didn't make his life any harder than it had to be. But it felt like in Orlando, like you mentioned, he kind of got in his own way. If it doesn't work with Tomas Aviles as a right back, then take him out in the 12th minute when you see that it's not going well. Don't continue doing it and wait and just wait until, I don't know, the halftime to put Bori Hidalgo and then take Brian Vera out, which, by the way, not a lot of people spoke about it, but he had a purple eye getting out of the game, which is
Yeah,
crazy. But that game, but that's where I'm with Marco Donadel. Robbie says his decision making is erratic. I don't know about erratic, but it is. There's a lot of questions to be asked about it, and Elias, I 100% agree with you that this scheme could be really good. I've seen videos on YouTube, I've seen videos on LinkedIn of people like sharing the man-to-man defense and how well it works. But the quality of players that you have in that scheme is nowhere near where CF Montreal is at right now. Maybe they'll be there in 2-3 transfer windows. We don't know. But right now, with the quality you
mhm,
have, you are asking way too much of the players.
yeah,
And again, I do believe you do have talented players. But I think that wraps it up for CF Montreal, unless you wanted to add anything else. But I think we talked about it enough, and I think we're going to just finish the show with a little bit of FC Super. But before we get into it, if you're listening right now and you're not subscribed, first of all, we're not mad. We're here drinking beer, but go ahead and smash that subscribe button to support the Ball is Round. It's free. It helps the show, and honestly, it's just the right thing to do. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on all of our social media for daily updates, clips, and takes on everything CF Montreal, Rose FC, and FC Super to Quebec. We told you guys, Elias told you, we go to practice. We like to go to practice. We like to take pictures, give you notes, give you everything on all the teams. And like we'll talk about FC Super in a second and some of the things that happen as well. But join us, guys. Whatever
yeah,
social media you have, a quick follow is all we need, and we'll leave you alone. You'll just see our beautiful faces every night, once in a while. But let's talk about FC Super to finish the
yeah.
show, because we were going to talk about it last week, but we ran out of time. But Laurent Simon joining FC Super du Quebec as an assistant manager. Elias, that's a massive statement signing for the club.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
Oh, I think I was shocked. Honestly, I was very surprised. This is a guy that very well could have been the head coach of this club,
Hmm?
with the pedigree and the experience and the knowledge that he has. Um, it's very clear he wants to stay in Montreal. You know, I think that he probably could have coached, definitely could have coached in MLS elsewhere if he wanted to, be it as a head coach or as an assistant. He probably could have found head coaching jobs all over North America if he wanted to. But it's clear that he has roots set in Montreal and he wants to stay here. I think that this is another really interesting project for him. I think that we talked about how there are still question marks in this defense, especially with a lot of the younger players, especially with a lot more unproven players. I think having someone of Laurent Simon's pedigree and his quality, he could, if he wanted to, he probably could play. You know,
Yeah.
if he really committed to it, he could probably get back into shape and play some of these games. But this is an unbelievable learning experience for so many of these defenders, and even the ones with more experience.
And even Nick
This is still an
Rosagi.
incredible.
Even Nick Rosagi is a learning
Even Nick
experience.
Rizaghi, right?
Yeah.
Who has his first professional experience now. Having someone who has run the gambit, both in North America and overseas, and with a national team. Having someone with that kind of experience and know-how is invaluable. So, massive. Oh, Andy has. Um, and he has left, and he's back,
Oh,
and he abandoned me briefly.
no, I'm here. I'm here.
Um,
I'm all for it. I'm here.
but yeah, I think having someone like
Apologize.
that who has been everywhere. Honestly, it's an invaluable amount of experience. So that's a huge get by Rocco Basantino and the people in charge of creating a staff, and it's fantastic news for the club.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Laurent Simon, I asked him last week when we had the press conference. I asked him what his role was, and he said, "Look, I'm whatever the coach needs me to do, I'll do." He said I've had a history of being a defensive coach and helping out the defense, but honestly, if I can help, and that's what's important to me because Laurent Simon, as you mentioned, with all the experience he has,
Mhm.
he can raise the standard of the little things. We're talking about practice. We're talking about game preparations. The little things amongst that maybe we don't see from the outside. That I think Elias, you and I are seeing now that we show up to practice every practice, right? We go there, we start seeing these things, and these are standards that need certain people like Nick Rozagi maybe needs a little bit of coaching as well as to what the CPL level is expected to look like, at least in a practice sense, or
Mhm.
maybe even, like I mentioned, preparation, nutrition, and all these things that Laurent Simon can bring that experience. But it's going to be tricky, guys. It doesn't take
Yeah.
away from the fact that it is going to be tricky. The only restriction that Laurent Simon has, and has always had it since his MLS days, is traveling. He's traveling because of things with his family, right? But um, beyond that, if he didn't have that kind of, he, as you mentioned, could be the head coach of this team. And if this team doesn't fully take advantage of his presence on the sideline, I mean, they're going to be losing big time because he is a massive
Yeah.
sign, and I think FC Super is doing it the right way because they want people's eyes. They want people to go to the stadium. They want people to, this team to be taken seriously, not just by the CPL but the fans in Montreal. And this is a major sign, just like David Chouanier or just like Sean Ray, which, by the way, I was walking around yesterday, the old port, during my lunchtime at work, and I see David Chouanier going into a cafe right there. I was like, hey, what do you know? David Chouanier is walking the old port. But that's just the world we live in now, right? We have three professional soccer teams. We're
Yeah.
bound
You're gonna see
to,
them
and
everywhere.
Montreal can be very, very small. But okay, so we're going to talk again to finish the show before I get disconnected once again. FC Super continues to build, adding defender Safwane Mia. If I've said that wrong, I apologize.
Safwan Mla.
Mla, an attacker, Olivier Correa to the mix. How are we feeling as about this roster as it you know, starts to take shape and we're getting official defenders. There's still roster spots and the
Yeah.
press conference that the team released announcing these signings, they made it very clear there are still spots open. There are still trialists in the team. So this is not a complete roster yet. But seeing these kind of signings, what do you make out of that?
I think it's good. I think having people with professional experience, with CPL experience, when you talk about Safwan Mla, is only a good thing. I think these guys are going to be really important rotational players. I don't think they're going to, at least start on day one. But you got a 6 and a 10, with a lot of experience, a lot of talent in Safwan Mla. And you also have Olivier Correa, who, has played as a 10, who's played as an 8 in NCAA and semi pro and all over the place, and who is insanely talented and who is able to provide that final ball, try and be decisive in the final third, which is something they desperately need. Um, in addition to obviously the finding a proper finisher. But like you said, right, there's still roster spots open. There's still lots of competition to be had in the attacking core. I hope that they're not done bringing in attackers.
Well, they
But
can't
yeah,
be.
I honestly think that these are not surprising at all, and I think that um, this is really just more confirmation of two players that have played friendlies with the starters and with the contracted players, and have been obviously some of the more prominent people at training that just maybe were not officially signed yet, but it was more of a matter of time than are they going to make it or not.
Yeah. Well, no, adding as you mentioned, CPL experienced players is one of the most important things because at the end of the game day, a lot of these players that they have right now, they have soccer experience, but
Yeah.
it comes from a lower level that which doesn't guarantee anything that they're going to perform in the CPL. But just
Hmm.
bringing that, in each position, hoping to bring somebody with CPL experience can definitely, I think, help out this team. Having someone say like Safwan Emla, I said Emla, and Olivier, I've seen him in practice too, and I think they are players that can surprise this league, but again, we go back to the Laurent impact because he's going to be there. He's going to be watching these practices, and we're going to see how these players react to these, new drills maybe or new standards to when holding this, these practices. Speaking of practice, Elias, today we had kind of odd news because, as we mentioned at the
Yeah,
beginning of the
that's a
show,
good way to phrase it.
there was we mentioned at the beginning of the show. Those of you that don't live in Montreal are watching us from elsewhere. There was a lot of wind this morning in Montreal, a lot, and then it started last night. I mean, I had a lot of my colleagues that told me that they couldn't sleep throughout the night because it was so the wind was so terrible. But the practice dome in Laval, where
Yeah.
Roses FC and FC Supra practice, was completely knocked down today.
Yeah, it fell down. I mean, it's a very old dome. Anyone who's
But
been in
I'm
there
worried
knows that
about
it's
that.
hanging on for dear life, or it was hanging on for dear life. Thankfully, nobody's hurt,
Yeah,
which is fantastic news. Obviously, Supra are going to be training at Baie in the West Island, so maybe I can actually not spend 45 minutes to get there, which would be nice. And the Roses are on a week break, so it doesn't really affect them all that
yeah.
much. But they will be training on the indoor turf going forward. Which again,
The
we're talking about a month maybe before the outdoor surfaces are usable. So it's not like it's going to be a permanent thing. It just means that probably the rest of their training camp will be done at the indoor turf, which is under an actual roof with building standards and support rather than a bubble, which is nice, I guess, for everybody. It's gonna be nice for me because it means I get to sit and watch training and not stand.
Oh,
But other
stop
than that,
complaining. This
I'm
guy,
at a.
man.
You're the one being dramatic. No, I was
Next
totally
time, bring
chill.
a little
Drink your
yoga
beer.
ball if you want to sit,
Drink your
okay?
beer.
Okay. But
But yeah, other than that, see, I could talk
yeah.
while you're drinking, and you can't interrupt me.
But
So but yeah, I just
yeah.
think it's funny now because nobody got hurt, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing.
Yeah, it concerns me though because it's kind of a wake up call from the perspective of the team, but also the city. Like we want to talk about expanding soccer in the city. We want to talk about adding teams. We want to talk about soccer structures being taken seriously. This kind of thing can't happen to professional soccer teams in Montreal. They need to be settled in a place that can take this kind of weather, especially when we talk about the craziness of winter that Montreal brings. But we've seen little tiny steps being taken towards a better soccer environment and soccer culture here in Montreal, which was a long time coming and is now actually starting to happen. Like now parking is free at Claude Robillard. Which was
What a
something that
world
was
we live in.
no, but I mean, like, okay, you can laugh and you can make it, but I think those are tiny, tiny, tiny little steps where you start making it accessible to go watch a soccer game by not having to pay for parking. So that's anyways, that's a thing for me. But did we want to add anything else for FC Super? I think we're
No, that's pretty much it.
yeah. So look, what we like Elias mentioned, just happy nobody was hurt, but hopefully they take action and kind of improve their condition. But
I would
guys,
much rather they just fix their surfaces because the surfaces are arguably worse than the dome, and the dome almost killed people. So
yeah, no, you're not wrong. But listen, we started the show with the Canadiens being tied with the Boston Bruins 1-1. We end the show with them with the same score. But thank you all for
nope,
joining us
Boston just
tonight.
scored.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Yeah, dang. Yes, they did. All right. Oh, well, we end the show with Boston Bruins up to the 1 to the Canadiens. So thank you so much to everyone who joined us tonight. We hope you loved the show. Elias, I know we love doing it. We have a blast whenever it is a Monday night, a Sunday night, Tuesday night, when we're here and when we're with you guys. We love it. And as always, the Ball is Round is completely free to watch and listen on all of our platforms. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms. Plus, give a follow to my account and Elias's account for your daily dose of hot takes, chaos, and maybe even a little bit of nonsense. A huge shout out to everyone who joined the Patreon this week. Elias, we have people joining the Patreon every week.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's so
Dude,
great. Love
they're
you guys.
consuming it. They're love it, and we see your messages, we see the feedback. And for everyone who tuned in tonight, Robbie, we're looking at you. JF Montreal, we're looking at you. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. You guys are legends. And make sure to join us next week for episode 256. Quebec soccer, Canadian soccer. There's just too much to list. Rose FC, FC Super to Quebec, all of that. CF Montreal. But you already know the drill. Don't miss it. See you next time.